Welcome to the 49-Yard Dash Podcast, the podcast on your San Francisco 49ers, hosted by myself, Stephen Ellis, and of course, my good friend Josh every week. Josh LaFondle, as they say, writes for
Did you say that?
Yes. Oh, yes. And it is a well-earned and deserved nickname that you can also find at gbmwolverine.com. And Michigan's in the playoff, buddy. They're in the playoff, number 2 seed. Number 2.
Playoffs. Playoffs. We're talking about playoffs. Playoffs.
But as you know what? First, how you doing, my man?
I recently got back from a red-eye flight to Jacksonville, Florida, interviewing for the yet-to-be-open Jaguars job. Oh, yes. I'm going to be – they've got me in the hiring paperwork. I have to take a drug test. Don't know if I'm going to pass. Didn't mention anything about the background check, so we'll see how that goes. You want to be my offensive coordinator?
Absolutely, I do.
Okay, sounds great. I've got a secret weapon. Thinking about bringing on for strength and conditioning. A guy by the name of Stanley Hudson. How's that sound?
What about Kevin Malone, a line coach?
He's kind of a team morale guy. Morale is going to be pretty low, but we'll have a good time.
You know what he'd be really good at? I know.
Making chili?
That guy, that too. Excellent. But that guy who his job is to make sure the coach doesn't run onto the field, so he's just standing behind him ready and just grabs him by the sides and folds him back.
Kevin would literally be the worst at that. He's the slowest guy in the office. The guy you're looking for would either be Roy because he's domestically abusive or possibly Andy because he is a kiss-up.
I see it.
It's not myself.
Andy. Yeah, I see Andy. Yeah.
He's a real go-getter. Real suck-up.
That'll work. All right, yeah. We're off the rails already. You know, that's what we do here.
Yep. Just want to start the show off by saying Urban Meyer is a FRAUD, fraud.
And I second that. I think he should be fired yesterday.
So the way you know he's going to get fired is the fact that I was going to say his actual name, but we'll just go with Shaka Khan, which was an 80s R&B group. Shaka Khan is going to fire Urban Meyer. We know this for sure because he said, at the end of the season, we will evaluate and make the best decision for the team. His words.
The best decision is to get the heck out of there.
Just a thought.
Okay.
Wouldn't the best decision be if you were going to keep him to say we're keeping him? Just a thought. Why would you come out and say we're going to make the best decision at the end of the year?
Hear me out. I would like to say that it was a bad decision by Urban Meyer to pull in all of the assistant coaches that he hired and say, you're a loser, tell me why I'm wrong. Can you believe that? That's a silly question.
This is a bold take.
Okay.
It might be too bold for my blood. However, I do find interesting he lost 9 games in the history. Yeah, 9 games at Ohio State, and he's lost 11 in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Interesting.
9-11 goes to show that he's a terrorist.
Yeah, I'm starting to think – never mind. Let's move on to the 49ers.
Okay. Yeah, let's get on topic here. But he is a fraud, I agree. All right.
Baby mama, I'm talking to you. Let's go on to the 49ers.
49ers. We're back on track, baby. We're back on track. Overtime win against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Who dat?
An entertaining game. It obviously was a nail-biter game since it went into overtime.
Yes.
I got a few notes here. One, I've been saying this, I think, since the 2019 season. But one, George Kittle is not only the best tight end in the National Football League, but I'm going to say here, and I've said this to you many times, the most impactful non-quarterback on offense in the entire league. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. I saw a headline from ESPN's fantasy app, ironically enough, it said, is Travis Kelce still tight end number 1? I've never got that headline about Jimmy Garoppolo.
Wow.
And, of course, that's fantasy football. But arguably the two most impactful people, the two best players in all of football, are George Kittle and Aaron Donald. They're not quarterbacks. That's the list. That's number one and number two. You can have some quarterbacks up there. You can have a healthy Deshaun Watson. You can have a elite Lamar Jackson. You can have Patrick Mahomes when he's Patrick Mahomes. You can put them up there if you want, but those are quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they're impactful to their teams. But these guys, non-quarterbacks, overall, regardless of position, including quarterbacks, in my opinion, number one, number two, 1A, 1B, Aaron Donald, George Kittle. And it speaks to the fact that one of those positions is put in a I hate to use the word position twice in a row, but one of those positions is put in a position to succeed. Aaron Donald, he's put in situations where he gets matchups that help his stats look good, help him make a powerful impact throughout the game. George Kittle does a lot of stuff that doesn't even show up. He had 13 receptions for $150 and a touchdown. And arguably the most impactful stuff he did in that game wasn't even receiving related. In my mind, that's why he is definitely up there with Donald as far as the unsung heroes of the league, the unshown face of the league. And in all reality, those guys are the best players in football, in my opinion.
And to be honest, with the season he's having right now, Trent Williams is up there with just best players in football, honestly.
Yeah,
but the thing about George Kittle is he's proven since he's come back from injury, if he's targeted as much as Travis Kelce and Darren Waller, he can produce maybe even more than Travis Kelce and Darren Waller just catching the ball. But he can have 2 targets and still be extremely impactful. He's a monster. He is a monster. And watching this game, he was targeted 15 times. He caught 13 of them. It felt like he had 60 catches, man. I'm telling you, every time somebody needed to catch a ball, it was 85. And that's why he is my virtual background tonight. He is a monster.
So if you add up the rest of the team's receptions, Ayuk with 6, Jennings with 3, Debo with 1, JaMychal Hasty with 3, and Juice with 1. That comes out to 14. Or no, let's see here. 6, 9, 10, 13, 14. Yeah, 14 receptions. Kittle had 13 of them.
Wow.
Of the team's 27 total. So basically half of the receptions the team had went to George Kittle. And that's not just a Garoppolo thing. We harp on Garoppolo a lot. But Kittle is the best guy out there on both sides of the ball that the 49ers have. It's not even close. It's not Debo. It's not Ayuk. It's not Elijah Mitchell. It's not Trey Lance. It's not Jimmy Garoppolo. It's not Jimmy Ward. George Kittle is the best player on the friggin' team. It's not even Trent Williams. It's not even close. As good as Trent Williams is, George Kittle is the offense. He is the team. When he's rolling, they're rolling.
So, and I'll move on to the game specifically after this, but the core of guys that they have, George Kittle, who I think is the best tight end in the league, we just talked about, Trent Williams, who I think is the best tackle in the league, Nick Bosa, who I think, and I'll get into this towards later in the episode of why, but I think is a top 3 edge rusher in the league. Dude, that
arguably
is
number
core.
1 or 2.
Yeah, arguably. I think right now you got to go T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett, and then Nick Bosa 3. But I mean,
sure. But we talked about that at length.
Yeah, and I'm going to get into that more as we go into the game because at the end of this game he really showed why. But main points of this game specifically: 1, the Bengals special team unit looked like the 49ers special team unit last week against Seattle, fumbling punts and kickoffs, and they just looked horrible. That was really interesting to see.
Yeah, they were the ball was Trent Cannon, and the Bengals special teams was the ambulance.
Oh, no.
They couldn't get there in time.
He acted like he died.
As far as I know, he
did. I thought he did.
I'm glad he's alive because I'm never going to see him again.
Why?
I mean, I don't think he's getting his job back.
Oh, yeah, probably not. Okay, yeah.
No. Yeah.
I didn't follow there. Yeah.
No, I think he's gone. What's your second point?
Jimmy Garoppolo played overall pretty well, but
debatable.
But I did not love scoring 3 points in the third and fourth quarters combined. Still really inconsistent and gets stagnant at times. And then late in the fourth quarter on what could have been the game-winning drive, but Robbie Gould. Overall, Jimmy Garoppolo got him in position to get a game-winning field goal, and Robbie Gould missed it. But on that drive, he threw a pass that was very similar to the pick he threw to Harrison Smith 2 weeks ago. Jesse Bates, I am shocked that he dropped that ball because it hit him between the 3 and the 0. And it could have maybe been a pick six, and that would have lost the game. But he came back. We all know that Jimmy Garoppolo is a roller coaster. But despite that, he got him in position to win the game. And then in overtime, he did ball out in overtime.
Hold the fort.
What do you
Are you telling me in crunch time that Jimmy Garoppolo didn't deliver? That is news to my ears that such a thing would ever transpire. Are you telling me Jimmy Garoppolo choked when it mattered most? I don't know if I'm telling you that. Color me shocked. I've never seen it happen before. In overtime, the highlight of the game of which I watched, and the highlights that I rewatched over and over and over again because I'm an addict, not to coke, to my teams. The one play they showed in overtime wasn't anything Garoppolo did. It was the pass to Brandon Ayuk, which was a great route concept, which drew him open, and Ayuk beat it with.
It was wide open, and Ayuk did it all.
Yes, so I would reject the notion that Garoppolo balled out in overtime.
Well, he was 7 for 7 with 78 yards in the touchdown.
How much of that did he shoulder, and how much of that was drawn up? I would argue the majority of that was great scheme and great play calling by Kyle Shanahan, who's finally getting in this groove.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, you still have to deliver the ball there. I'm not saying I'm not arguing he's an elite clutch quarterback, but I'm just saying he did deliver the ball when he needed to, and they won the game largely.
I would say Shanahan balled out, and
I do agree with that.
I will never use the words Garoppolo balled out ever, because he is the single-handed reason of which they were not scoring points in the second half.
That's true.
Why this game went to overtime. I criticized
him for that. And
you did, but I feel like he should deserve more criticism. Not as much as Urban Meyer, but he deserves his weekly dose. Robbie Gould's kick was fine. The wind took it. You can see it in the replay over and over again. No matter how many times you watch it. He started it almost to the left upright. And that thing went all the way over. I mean, it looked like a jump shot in the middle of a hurricane that you start at the opposite side of the backboard, not even touching the backboard, and it manages to miss the rim.
And 47 yards is no gimme. So I'm not knocking Robbie.
No, and I'm not saying you are. You are. It's just the fact that they shouldn't have been in that position, I guess. But I don't want to make this another Josh LaFon anti-Jimmy podcast. But to be fair, they just go ahead.
Well, here's the thing is, if you score more than 3 points in the second half, you don't have to rely on a 47-yard field goal. So, that's out there.
And that's all I'm trying to say. Is that they just shouldn't have been in this position.
Absolutely.
But to be fair, like you said, he did step up in overtime, doing what he should have done in the second half, which was deliver the ball. Because Shanahan was calling good plays, really. It's evidenced by Kittle, who the Bengals went after over and over again. They not only were trying to bump him and knock him off his route and get some late hits in there, play a little aggressive, but they were clearly double and triple teaming this guy, whether they were running zone or man. And he still managed to get 15 targets, 13 receptions, a buck 51 in a TD. That to me is based on purely play calling, purely Kittle. Both of them working together to find ways to still get him the ball despite what was going on with the quarterback of his own team and the defense on the other side of the ball.
And let me take a second to thank you, Josh, for pointing that out. Yeah, I am expressing my gratitude and appreciation at this moment for bringing that up, because I would like to also shout out the goons that were calling for Kyle Shanahan's head. And I kept saying, Aaron Rodgers, RELAX. It's a little funk. They're going to get out of it. Kyle Shanahan is not a bad coach. In fact, he is an elite coach. So all those goobers who were calling for his head saying he was on the hot seat, no, it was ridiculous. Ridiculous. It's stupid. Kyle Shanahan is awesome. Another note that I had is, dude, Joe Burrow is an absolute dude. He's a stud, man. He is. I mean, in the fourth quarter, the play that he made on 4th and 5 at the San Francisco 17, he evades one sack, starts rolling right, and just makes something out of nothing and finds Jamar Chase in the back of the end zone. And then 2 drives later, throws that dime to Chase again, who unfortunately did beat our guy Ambry Thomas on the route. You know, Chase is that's what he does. He's a deep route runner. That's his game.
Yeah,
you know?
He is, man.
And it was Ambry's first start. It's going to happen.
So. But yeah, and there was arguably a push off on that. But like Eric Crocker locked on said, it's called the chicken wing.
Yeah, that's right.
Call that. It wasn't full extension. It was enough to bump Ambry off. And I'd like to get into Ambry's play here in a minute, just because he is the hometown boy. But no, and not to toot the own horn, but big Burrow guy, arguably a bandwagon. Not arguably, definitely a bandwagon.
Me too.
Even though he played at Ohio State, I remember talking to you and our friend Roger about him, and both of you specifically stated that this guy, you know, and it's what was reasonable at the time, is like he's every other typical college quarterback. He has one good year, he gets overdrafted, show me when he does something. But just something seemed different about him. Yeah, it's fair, you know. Something felt different about him. If I was a 49ers fan, I would hitch my wagon to the Burrow train, because he is an awesome quarterback. The dude's a gamer. I was honestly worried about him going into the preseason. Just didn't look like he was confident. But the dude's just a baller, man.
He is.
And I don't think how Baker Mayfield kind of has that fake moxie, I think, where when he's like that annoying guy at the rec center that you play and pick up, who gets picked like second to last on a 5-on-5 team, or maybe even the last pick. And, you know, he makes one shot and he's just running his mouth all day.
Yeah.
He gets burned on defense. He can't make a turnover. He blames his team. You know, he blames everything but taking responsibility for himself. And when the big moment comes, he chokes. But he's the cockiest guy in the room who talks the most and everything. That's Baker to me. Burrow is kind of the opposite. He's that guy you take first or second in that same situation, that does everything right, and that only talks after the game, after he shoves it down your throat, and after he steps up at all the right times. That's when he runs his mouth, is after he's proven it. Yeah. He's kind of like the anti-Baker, and I really love Burrow. I think he's a great quarterback.
Me too.
And it's nice to see too, especially with these young rookie quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Lamar, Pat Mahomes, Burrow, Kyler. It's nice to see that the league's Herbert, and I knew I was leaving one off, but it's nice to see that the NFL going forward just played one of them, that it's in good hands as far as signal callers go.
Yeah,
it's nice to see that.
Yeah, I think Burrow and Herbert are my 2 favorite young guys not on the 49ers right now. They're just they're studs, man.
They're awesome. And both of those guys, they've just got kind of a quiet, unspoken moxie to them that if you were playing with them, you know, you would – I wouldn't say Joe Montana-esque, but – kind of in that same mold, especially with Burrow even more so, where you just feel, even watching them on TV, you can only imagine how his teammates feel in the huddle. They didn't feel like they were losing this game, and I don't feel like they feel like they're ever out of the game with him there. He just leads them that way.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, no, he's a stud. And I think him and Herbert, Allen and Mahomes, or those guys are going to be ruling the AFC for years to come.
Sure.
And they'll have to go through Bill Belichick too. I'm not going to say Mac Jones. I'm going to say Bill
Belichick.
What?
Who?
What?
Who? All right. Next.
I'm
we're talking about
referring to.
Yeah, no, we're talking about the game. Mentioned Ambry. What are we moving on to? What's our next topic?
No, yeah, let's make that our next topic. Why don't you talk some Ambry for us?
Yeah, they didn't necessarily put him into position to succeed. I think that's probably the one thing I got burned on more than anything is I kind of assumed they drafting 2 rookie cornerbacks. I kind of thought they would put him in positions to succeed, which in my mind was putting Lenore in the slot as a nickel, and then putting Ambry in man-to-man or even zone.
And press more so, right?
Yeah, so Ambry ran 90% man press at Michigan.
Yes.
When Michigan was successful, they had the talent to go up against national teams, not just in their conference with Ohio State, but the Notre Dames, Alabamas, Florida States of the world. And they had equal talent. That's when you can play man press. And that's the same in the NFL. If you want to play man press, what that is, to explain it, is you're not giving them any buffer zone. You're allowed 5 yards of contact. In man press. You can bump and grind. You're trying to dig in, get under the skin. The advantages of that is if you have the better talent, you're going to win because not only are you not allowing short yardage stuff by pressing them, you're staying stride for stride downfield. Ambry ran a sub 4.4 in high school. He ran just over 4.4 confirmed in the NFL Combine, or the Michigan Combine rather, after dealing with an autoimmune disease for several months. So you can only imagine how fast he would be after getting back to the condition he's at now. And that's what you're looking for in a man press guy, someone who's got the body, got the length to jam you at the line and then run stride for stride downfield, like Revis Island, like not
Pat Pete.
Pat Pete. Patrick Sherman, Josh Norman, their zone guys, but Patrick Peterson, Revis Island, those are guys that are lockdown man corners who you can put out on an island, say we're going after your best receiver, and we're going to shut them down. Zone's different. What I would have liked to have seen, obviously the 49ers are mainly a zone defense, playing 2 high stuff, playing quarters, meaning 4 defensive backs spaced out. If you are going to play zone with a primarily man-to-man guy, you still need to put him in a position where he can play to his strength, which is pressing and jamming at the line.
Yeah.
So would have liked to have seen them put Ambry in a zone press.
Yeah.
You can still run your same concepts, but just tweak it a little bit where he isn't having to think so much about, oh man, I've got to drop into my area, meaning zone is what it sounds like. You're covering a zone of the field. Anybody who comes into your zone, you pick up. Anybody who goes out of your zone, you let go. Man-to-man, you are playing pickup basketball, picking your guy and following him no matter where he goes.
Yeah.
Obviously, zone is different for Ambry. They didn't just run man in college at Michigan. They did run some zone, but not near enough to what the 49ers do.
Yeah.
It's almost flipped. So it would just be nice to see, and not even for Ambry's sake, even for Lenore. He was more of a press guy too.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see them put these young defensive backs in positions to succeed. Ambry went up against
they're used to doing at least. Yeah.
Yeah, and even if you are going to run zone, hey, that's fine. But let them at least bump these guys, run with them a little bit. The difference in zone press and man press, with man press, you're bumping them and staying with them through the completion of their route. Zone press, you're bumping them, keeping a mental track of where you are at on the field.
Yeah.
And then pass them off to the next guy.
Yeah.
But at least you're still doing something you're familiar with.
True.
I did think Ambry acquitted himself pretty well. 49ers fans were fairly mixed on him, but for his first run in almost 2 years of game action, he was primarily on Jamar Chase. He gave up 5 receptions, 77 yards, 8 targets. So he did deflect 3 of them. 2 touchdowns, but the 2 touchdowns he gave up were, one of them was a push off, which they're not going to call, and the other one was just a great catch by a young wide receiver.
It was just a magical play.
Yeah, one of them was a magical play. The other one was a push off. I didn't think he really got burned. Honestly, I was more concerned he was going to have a T. Higgins line, which was the same amount of receptions, same amount of targets for $114. Ambry didn't allow really anything after the catch. Chase is a bigger wide receiver too, a few inches taller, great hands. Would have liked to like I said, seen them put him in more positions to succeed. But however, being asked to play a type of defense in his first real action that he hasn't had familiarity with ever in his career. He ran man in high school too, like every other high school player. He did fairly well. Go ahead.
He was thrown in a really tough position for your first start. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and if you take those 2 touchdowns off the board and you give them to Josh Norman, everybody's raving about Ambry. It's just the fact that he got scored on twice, which is what it is. That 2 of those receptions looks
bad. Yeah.
It does look bad. One of those was a 30-yard touchdown catch. Yeah. That there was contact on. So his stat line isn't as bad as is led to believe. And of course I am an Ambry defender, but to be honest, folks, who would you rather have out there once Mosley's healthy? A young Ambry Thomas who's only going to get better on the outside, or Josh Norman? Yeah. He is what he is.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean, for sure.
Who gave up $114 to T. Higgins?
True. Yeah, it's true. The next guy I want to talk about, we briefly mentioned earlier. And in overtime, the Bengals were able to get to the San Francisco 19, and it looked like they were driving. And honestly, I thought they were going to score, and the game was going to be over, that the 49er offense wouldn't even get to touch the ball. But on a 3rd and 3, Nick Bosa sacks Joe Burrow, and they have to settle for a field goal. I saw something earlier. It was on Instagram, and it's not even a big page or something, but it was the Defensive Player of the Year leaderboard to them. And it was TJ Watt 1, which, hey, I understand. He's been phenomenal. Myles Garrett 2, I understand. Cam Hayward 3, Micah Parsons 4, and I'm forgetting who was 5th, but it wasn't Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa should be 3rd, without a doubt. Nick Bosa has 14 sacks, and they might end up giving him 15 because there was one that Al-Shaair was credited with that they might swap over to Nick Bosa. We'll see how that goes if they correct that. Joe Burrow ran out of bounds, and they give it to the closest defender. I thought Bosa was the guy who actually ran him out of bounds, but they gave it to Al-Shaair because he was in front of him. So they might even switch that one, and maybe he even has 15. But he's 3rd in sacks with 14, played 13 games. He is tied first in quarterback hits. He is first, not tied, for tackles for loss. And this is while being not the 3rd most, not the 2nd most, but the most double team edge rusher in football. And he's got top 2-3 stats. How is he not being talked about for Defensive Player of the Year?
It's because the 49ers are the most roller coaster team in football right now. Nobody's watching our games. Nobody cares. Everybody wanted to see Trey Lance from the outside looking in. They're not getting that. 49ers 7-6, they're not watching.
Yeah.
Same reason Christian McCaffrey didn't win the Heisman years ago. Stanford went 10-2 and wins a Rose Bowl. Yeah, night games wins a Rose Bowl over Iowa. Over an Iowa team. Yeah, Iowa that shouldn't have been there.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, over an Iowa team that shouldn't have been there. Nobody was watching his games. Nobody wanted to stay up late. Nobody wanted to watch a blowout game to Iowa because nobody cares. It's the same thing with the 49ers. It's the issue of a regional West Coast team who's not on most national watchers'
radar.
Viewing schedule radar, and the 49ers aren't a team that's just blowing up. If they were in the Cardinals spot right now, the talk of the town, everybody would be pumping in the sky. It's just an unfortunate deal. But there's an argument to be made that he could be the NFC MVP. If that even was an award, he would be the most valuable player of the conference, even over a Kyler Murray. And if it wasn't for Myles Garrett or TJ Watt, there's a legit discussion to be made that he should be an MVP conversation. And definitely with up there with those guys, having to go up against the great offensive lines he has gone up against, and still, like you said, be the most double-teamed edge rusher in all of football, and have that stat line is nuts. And we see how much of a gauntlet of a schedule the 49ers have been through. And for him to still have those stats, these aren't cupcake games.
Mm-hmm.
They're legitimate sample sizes for how good of a player he is.
Yeah, he's excellent. He's fantastic. But, the main point that we could take from this is that the 49ers won one of these two road games. When we looked at the schedule weeks ago and were predicting stuff, I said that I think they'll beat the Vikings and they'll drop one of the Seattle or the Cincinnati game. They dropped the Seattle game. It was annoying, but they went in Cincinnati, won a game. They're 7-6. And everybody else is in the NFC that's below them is 6-7, and just about all of them have pretty brutal schedules. The 49ers, I think they're a lock to make the playoffs. I think they're a lock for the 6th seed.
Yeah, I'm not there yet, but I'm not far behind. I think they would do a lot for their resume in fans' minds to go out and make a statement against the Falcons, even though the Falcons are there with them record-wise. They just don't have any – they don't have the look of being an NFL playoff team this year. So even though they are a game behind, 49ers really go out and make a statement against them. You think they do?
Yes, I do.
I think when Cordero Patterson is your best offensive weapon, I don't think that's a playoff team.
I thought you meant the 49ers. My bad.
No. I was talking about the Falcons. The Falcons are 6-7. 49ers are 7-6. I'm just rambling.
The Falcons don't look like a playoff team to me.
No, they're not. They're not. And that's the issue. If the 49ers go out and lay an egg or they win by 3 or 4 points, that's not what we're looking for. They need to go out and make a statement. You're at home. You're favored by 9. You are going back on the road in a couple weeks. This is the perfect trap game. You can't lay an egg in this one. If you're going to lock up being in the playoffs, you got to win this week because you're probably going to win the Texans game. But what you can't do is drop an egg to the Falcons, drop an egg to the Titans, and then be in a position where you have to beat the Texans and the Rams get in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true.
You got to go out and make a statement on Sunday.
Yeah, it is possible. You're right. Yeah, if they had some weird game against the Falcons, Tennessee is definitely a viable game that they could lose, and so is the Rams, obviously. So, but what do you think? I mean, realistically, if you had to predict these last 4 games, how many are they winning out of the last 4?
I would think 2. I think they're still going to drop the Titans, and I do think they are going to drop the Rams, but I think they split them, and that is something that we have yet to see, and is conventional wisdom proved true from the 49ers this year. We thought they beat the Seahawks, lose the Bengals. They flipped that. We thought they would potentially beat the Cardinals, lose the Rams. They didn't do that.
Yep.
They didn't do that either. So, maybe they lose the Falcons, beat the Titans. Who knows? And they haven't been good at home this year. But I do think they kind of curb stomp the Falcons this week and all their playoff hopes. Probably lose a tight one to the Titans, blow out the Texans, and then lose another tight one in a toss-up game against the Rams.
So I think 2-2 gets them comfortably in the 6th seed, actually, with the way the NFC looks after that. That puts them at 9-8, and I don't think anybody else in the NFC below them is winning 9 games. Actually,
sure. Yeah. Sorry, my throat's parched here just a second. I know we're live, but I would like to, just while I go grab a cough drop here real quick, I would like for you to, because this is what I was wanting to bring up next. Could you speak to what you think about the teams behind us, their playoff chances? Because we talked about before Washington, Philly kind of being in there, Minnesota as well. That was the next thing I was going to bring up. So just while I excuse myself for 10 seconds, could you kind of speak to what you think about Washington and Minnesota's chances?
Absolutely. And I don't know if Bleacher Report standings are completely right. I know that they're wrong in some aspects because they have the Cardinals over the Buccaneers in the standings, and that's not accurate. Cardinals are the 3 seed right now. But as far as the teams below the Niners, so right now Washington has that 7 seed. Based on conference record, they get the tiebreaker. But the Vikings, the Eagles, the Falcons, and the Saints are all 6-7 as well. So there's a huge fight for that 7th seed right now. I know Washington and Philadelphia play each other twice going on the rest of the year. And I think Washington plays Dallas twice too. So those teams are going to have losses. And as crazy as it is, I think the Vikings, even though they lost to the Lions, might be the team that ends up there.
Well, and what's funny is we talked about it and you kind of laughed at it, but I did predict the Vikings losing to the Lions. It's in a letdown game.
You did.
It was a perfect letdown game for him. But no, so the football team played Dallas last week. They lost that game 27-20. They have the Cowboys one more time, the Eagles twice, and they finish up with the Giants, which is an unmotivated team that looks like Joe Judge has lost them. So basically they've got 2 chances to lock up a playoff spot, with the Eagles. I don't even think it matters if they lose to the Cowboys, in my opinion. And then as far as the Eagles go, they've got obviously Washington twice, Giants sandwiched in the middle, and then they end with Dallas.
Man, wow. So as far as Washington and Philly goes,
sure.
If one of them sweeps each other, if Washington beats the Eagles twice or the Eagles beat Washington twice, they might be in, because I'm looking, the Vikings, they're in Chicago, probably going to win, but then they're at home against the Rams, then they're in Green Bay and play Chicago. They could lose at least 2 of those games. Probably will. They will lose at least 2 of those games. So I don't know. The Vikings may not be the team to.
No, I think I'm kind of with you. You kind of hitch your wagon to the Riverboat Ron train and that defense. Minnesota, outside of Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook's still injured. I don't think you can trust anything they're doing. Their defense still has so many holes on it.
Yeah.
A lot over the hill guys. Harrison Smith's playing great ball, but other than that, he's kind of a savvy veteran. There's not a lot of dudes on that team, outside of Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, and Harrison Smith. Washington just seems like one of those gritty years where they sneak into the playoffs and have no names on the team and nobody cares about them, and they just sneak in. They did that last year, gave Tom Brady his best run for his money, and they're on track to do it again this year. So, but yeah, I think I'm with you. I'm going Washington to probably lock up that 7th seed.
Yeah, that's what I think too, and that's where they are at the moment. And if the season ended today, Washington would be playing Tampa Bay. The Cowboys and the Rams would be playing as the 4 and 5. The 3 and the 6 seed is exactly what I talked about last week. Last week I said the Cardinals have some rough games coming up. I don't think they're a lock for the 1 seed at all. They lost this week to the Rams, and now they are the 3 seed, which is exactly what I mentioned, is that the 49ers could end up playing the Cardinals in the playoffs. And if the season ended today, that's who they'd be playing. And
and playing in Arizona, that's a home crowd for 49ers fans. Cardinals have a hard time filling that up for primetime games, let alone playoff games. They're not going to come out in droves. That's going to be a 50-50 game at best for Cardinals fans. 49ers are going to fill up that place too, like they always do.
And I understand that you look at what's happened so far this year, and the first time they met the Cardinals, they lost 10-17. The second time, they pretty much got blown out by Colt McCoy. So I understand how you would look in and say, 49ers don't have any chance against these guys. They couldn't beat Colt McCoy. But one, I don't think the 49ers are the same team as they were back then. I mean, they have totally switched gears, and they've turned a corner, and they're a completely different football team. 2, I think it's hard to beat Kyle Shanahan 3 times in a row. And 3, the Cardinals have kind of gotten different looks both times they played the 49ers too. They played the Trey Lance 49ers, and then they played the struggling, don't know what the heck we're doing. Shanahan doesn't have any rhythm calling plays 49ers. They haven't really played these 49ers.
No, I completely agree with you. I don't think there's anything else to say on that topic. What I would like to do is kind of transition into who are two teams you're buying in both conferences, and who are two teams you're selling. Who are you buying? Who are you selling? So if you'd like to, we'll go maybe two who you're buying in the AFC. I'll go two who I'm buying, and then we'll do two selling.
Is this more like a buy low, sell high thing, or just buy?
No, this is who you're buying or selling for success this season. So, you know, just as far as standings go, playoff race goes, who are you buying? Who are you selling? As far as, let's say, playoff contenders, not Super Bowl contenders, but an actual playoff contender, somebody who can make some noise.
Okay.
Or you know what? What would be a good thing now that I'm looking at the standings? Let's do buying and selling the Super Bowl contenders looking at the standings. Because there's a couple pretenders in here. So give me two in the AFC. I'll give you two, and then we'll sell a couple, and then we'll flip to the NFC.
Okay. AFC. We're doing buying first? Sorry.
Yeah, we'll do we'll do two buying.
Okay. I am buying most of all, and everybody hates this because it's repetitive. Nobody wants to admit it, but I am buying these Kansas City Chiefs. They are my pick to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I think they are back, and surprisingly, they have a really good defense over the last 2 months. So I'm buying the Chiefs big time. I am also buying, I know they've disappointed the last 2 weeks, but I'm buying Buffalo. I think they're going to have a really similar thing to Tampa Bay last year, where they find themselves 7-5, 7-6, and kind of go on a hot streak to end the year, and are hot entering the playoffs.
Yep. So I'm almost with you. I'm buying the Chargers as being legit contenders. I don't think they win the division, but as they always were with Phillip Rivers, they were the best non-division winner or the best non-playoff team in all football every year with LaDainian Tomlinson, Phillip Rivers, and Antonio Gates, and that's probably what they're going to be this year. I think they're probably the best wild card team in all football. And then two, I also buy the Bills. Defense is improving every week. Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, they're too good of a tandem. Devin Knox is sneakily one of the better receiving tight ends in all football this year. If you're a fantasy player, he's definitely got to pick up. I picked him up on the waiver wire halfway through the year in multiple leagues. Dude's a beast. Just a sneaky good team that just needs to get hot. They really played in a crappy game that could have went either way against the Patriots that they probably should have won. And it wasn't any fault of their play calling. It wasn't due to any fault of their players. It wasn't due to any fault of the special teams or anything. It was just a game where
didn't go their way.
it was just where plays that go their way. And the weather did put both teams on equal footing. It was whichever team got the best bounces, and most of them went their way. And that's what happened in that game. But buying the Chargers, buying the Bills. Who are you selling in the AFC? And they don't, and I will preface it with this, they do not have to be currently in the playoff picture to be somebody you're selling on. Because there's a lot of teams that wild card race in the AFC is even more muddied than the NFC.
They're both pretty nuts. And it is nutty. I am selling Baltimore. The defense isn't that elite level as we're used to seeing in years past. The offensive line isn't elite to what we're used to seeing in years past. And Lamar Jackson's in kind of a funk. They're winning the division right now. I'm not sure that they even win the division now. I'm not going to say outright that they won't, but I don't feel confident at all. I don't think they're in a good place right now. So I'll go Baltimore, and I will also sell the Colts. Even though I like the Colts, I just don't really buy as – I think I'm pretty confident if they do for sure make the playoffs, it's a one-and-done situation.
Yeah.
So not much else to say. I just don't think they're that level of a team.
So I'm with you on the Colts. Carson Wentz isn't going to win you any games. Jonathan Allen's a stud. DeForest Buckner's up there with however you view Aaron Donald as one of the best interior defensive linemen in all of football.
Yeah.
Depending on where you have Aaron Donald listed. Darius Leonard's a stud as well.
Yes.
Frank Reich is a great coach.
Yes.
One of the better offensive head coaches outside of Kyle Shanahan. However, Carson Wentz is not that guy, Cal. Trust me, you're not that guy. And neither is the rest of their key positions. They've got some good young guys like Kwity Paye, but it's just not a team that's gonna, in my mind, be able to maybe even make the playoffs. You're not catching the Titans. You're not catching the Titans in the division. There's too many teams behind you, and I just don't know if Carson Wentz is that kind of guy that can lead you to a victory when you have to have it. And then another team I'm selling the Browns just because I don't buy Baker Mayfield. We've talked about it before. That is a sneaky guy where they feel like in Cleveland, they finally have the head coach, they have the GM, they have the framework of the team they're wanting to, like contender they're wanting to have, and the contender that they've already built. Baker's not that guy. And arguably, in my mind, he's getting close to being worse than Carson Wentz. I don't know if he can lead them to the playoffs. I don't think they're even catching their division competition, being a game back at Baltimore. I don't even know if they're catching them here down the stretch. I think if anybody's likely to catch Baltimore, it's probably Cincinnati with the dynamic offense and proven defense.
I like Cincinnati.
Cleveland's, they've got an O-line. They've got great young studs, Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett. But they just don't have, for one, that veteran leader anywhere on their team to teach them how to get through the hard times and get over the hill. And they also don't have a quarterback who can put the team on their back, like a young Joe Burrow, like a young Justin Herbert. And I just don't, for one, think they'll even make the playoffs, even though they're tied with Buffalo and Indiana technically for that 6th and 7th seed. But I also don't even think if they got in it, they'd be able to do anything.
Yeah.
Just simply because Baker is not that guy. That defense, the offense, no matter how you shake it from the top down, they don't have a veteran presence at all who's been through the hard times and knows what it takes to get over the hump.
They're the team.
They're having to figure it out on their own.
Yeah, they're the team that has disappointed me on a personal level the most this year because I was extremely high on them coming in. And I thought that last year, Baker Mayfield, he ended the year so high. I thought it was going to transfer. He has dealt with 100 injuries, and so has the team overall. But it does feel like it's not their year. So I understand totally.
No, and like we talked about before we move on to the NFC and we start to wrap up, Cleveland is the front office and a fan base and ownership that is sick of this crap. And there's nobody in the NFL who deserves winning more than the Cleveland Browns and the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are trying to build what Cleveland has right now, and Cleveland has what Detroit wants. Cleveland isn't going to be content with Baker Mayfield for too much longer. And we've talked about it before. That is a sneaky trade proposition that you could come up with this offseason trying to move on from Baker while nobody's talking about it, make you an offer for one of these elite quarterbacks who might be on the trade market, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. That might be an enticing package. The Browns have their core championship contender in place. What they're lacking is a veteran leader who knows how to get the job done. And even if, in Deshaun Watson's case, doesn't know how to get over the hill, he's got enough talent to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. True that. Yeah, it's true. All right. You want to go first on the NFC this time?
Sure.
Sweet.
Two teams I'm buying. I will buy the Green Bay Packers, and I'll make it a little interesting. I'll buy the Washington Redskins football team.
Oh, yeah,
I'll buy them as both playoff contenders. And I do think the football team can make some noise. They gave Tampa Bay all they wanted last year, lost a one-score game in the wild card round to the eventual Super Bowl winners. Taylor Heineke's first start, actually. So he's got the reins now. Just a sneaky good defense in Washington. Green Bay, there's not much to say. Probably the best quarterback playing in football right now. Just Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. Devontae Adams, Devontae Adams. Jair Alexander is still, in my mind, the best cornerback in football. They've got a good team. They're built to win a championship. We'll see how it goes down the stretch. And I saw the shrug. I know what I said. I know I skipped over Jalen Ramsey. I know what I said. But, they're built to win, man. And then Washington, just a sneaky, gritty team that you don't want to play them.
Yeah.
They are the modern day version of the 2000s Indiana Pacers. They're not going to win a championship, but they're going to give you all you want.
They're going to make some noise.
They are going to make some noise, and they're going to give you all you want to handle. They're going to give you everything. So definitely like both of those teams. As far as making the playoffs, obviously Washington, Green Bay being a Super Bowl contender as well.
So I hate to be a copycat with at least the first one. Green Bay is also the team that I'm buying in on most. As of right now, I think it's going to be Green Bay and Kansas City in the Super Bowl. And, dude, Aaron Rodgers, oh my gosh, that guy is just unbelievable. He is unbelievable. I don't even need to really expound on it, but Pack is really, really good. I mean, they had a fluky week 1 and then a Jordan Love game. They're 10-1 outside of that. I mean, they are fantastic, and they're going to be tough to beat. The other team that I am buying, the San Francisco 49ers, baby.
What a homer.
I don't care, because the more I think about it, I don't want to play Green Bay or Tampa Bay, but the more I think about it, I think they can make some noise, and I'll elaborate even more soon. So you can go ahead with your sellers, Josh.
I'm selling. I'm going to try to speed it up because I got one more quick segment I want to hit you with.
Okay.
I am selling the Cardinals. I'm selling the Rams because neither one of those teams are ever going to win a Super Bowl under their current regimes or maybe in their history of their franchises. The Rams should have never left St. Louis. They screwed Jeff Fisher. They screwed that city and state over royally. And trading for Matt Stafford was great, but all the resources they gave up, not like they ever draft well anyway. It hasn't paid dividends. They are fortunate to be 2 games up on the 49ers. Otherwise, they would be looking at a potential stressful last 4 games, last month of the season. So selling them and then selling the Cardinals as well, like you said. Let's say they get the 49ers. Let's say they get Washington. Let's say Washington jumps the 49ers and they get the 6th seed. Do you want to play either of those teams? No. Do the Cardinals want to play any teams in the playoffs? No, because they are a franchise and are led by a quarterback who, in the same mold of Lamar Jackson, hasn't proved when teams have had multiple weeks to study him that they can get the job done. Kind of a gunslinging, dual threat guy. Kyler Murray is a good quarterback, but when you've got multiple weeks to game plan for him, behind still somewhat of a shaky O-line, you don't have a legitimate running threat who can take the weight off his shoulders. DeAndre Hopkins is banged up all year. Christian Kirk hasn't proven that he can be a legitimate number 1 wide receiver when Hopkins is out. I don't know what else you're turning to. Chase Edmonds isn't winning you anything. This team goes how Kyler Murray goes. And when he's not rolling, the defense gets so much pressure put on them. When they get into a game potentially down the road against Green Bay, against Tom Brady, against Dak Prescott, are they winning that? When that defense is put back on the field over and over and over again? I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to agree with you and then disagree with you. I'm going to agree with you by also selling the Cardinals stock. Yep.
Okay. Who else?
So I'm selling the Cardinals, and I think they're a good team, but I think the 10-3 record is a bit of an odd, fluky, hyperbole exaggeration of it, and I think it's just been a weird year, and I can't really explain why, but I don't think they're the level of Green Bay or Tampa Bay.
They're not.
So I'm selling them. I am also selling everybody outside of the top 6 seeds. I know Washington gave them trouble last year, but last year their defense was really, really good. And this year it's kind of fallen off a cliff for whatever reason. And I just don't think Heineke last week kind of turned I hear a lot of people say
Last couple
turn
weeks.
into a pumpkin, as some people like to say. And I just don't
Yeah.
buy it. So I think whatever team, whether it's them, Minnesota, Philly, New Orleans,
Sure,
it's just there to get spanked in the first round by Tom Brady. So
I can see that. One thing I would like to mention, I don't think there's anything more to elaborate on that. God almighty, I'm about to lose it.
nice.
I already lost it. Crap. It was a great point on the Cardinals, too. I'll come back to it. But, yeah,
Okay.
no, I'm with you. Reiterate your point on the Cardinals. Maybe it'll come back.
Like I say, I just think that they're good, but the 10-3
Yes.
record, yeah, it's just
You know what they remind me of?
What?
No. It is fluky. Remember the 2015, was it 2014, 2015? I think it was 2015. Atlanta Hawks, who won like almost 70 games.
Yeah.
With Jeff T,
Kyle
Korver, Al Horford,
Horford.
Paul Millsap, and the three. I can see his face. It wasn't Jay.
DeMarre Carroll?
DeMarre Carroll.
Yes.
It was Jeff T, Kyle Korver, DeMarre Carroll, Paul Millsap, Al Horford. That team had no business hanging with anybody, but they had a great record.
Yeah,
they were great in the regular season, and then they ran into LeBron.
Yeah,
and LeBron had a crappy record that year. And people were saying he was underperforming in Cleveland in his first year back. And they played a veteran team that knew how to get the job done, and they got their butts smacked. And when Atlanta went up in the game and they got it, a little ahead, the crowd would go nuts. And then as soon as Cleveland would do something, they would come crashing back to earth and the place would go silent. Atlanta wins one game, the city's like, oh, we got a chance. LeBron said, don't think so. That's the same thing that's going to happen in Arizona. They are the fraudulent. I feel the
same way.
They are the Atlanta Hawks of the NFL. They are going to come crashing back to earth when they get smacked in the face by the Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers of the world who say not so
Kyle
fast.
Shanahan.
It's going to happen. They're going to go up against a veteran team that's been there, done that, and knows how to get the job done despite what the regular season record is. Could be the 49ers. Could be somebody who's better than them this year. And they're going to get punched in the mouth and not know how to respond.
Yeah, that's what I think too. What's this last segment you speak of?
Last segment, I heard this on Locked On live show. It wasn't in the podcast, but it was a little conspiracy theory that Croc and our boy Peacock were talking about. And I was curious to get your thoughts. And I never heard this before, but there's a conspiracy going around on Twitter that the 49ers haven't played Trey Lance, Aaron Banks, and Trey Sermon because the Texans targeted all three of those guys, interviewed all three of those guys, and worked out all three of those guys. And those are three guys that they wanted. So they had the 49ers draft all three in an effort to stash them until the Deshaun Watson investigation was over with, and then make the trade this offseason for Deshaun Watson. Croc shot it down because of a simple reason, which is where I'm at. Wouldn't you just want 3 picks?
Yes.
But what are your thoughts on said conspiracy theory of potentially Deshaun Watson to San Francisco 49er?
So
trade this offseason.
If it were those 3 players, as much as I love Lance, I think you would have to do that. But yeah, why wouldn't they just take picks?
But isn't it convenient? We talked about 9/11 to open the show, but isn't it convenient that they trade all the way up for Trey Sermon, they trade up for Aaron Banks? Those are 2 positions of need, and they don't play them. And they've used Trey Lance sparingly.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. But I think there's an explanation behind all of them. So, like, Aaron Banks looked really bad in the preseason. Like, he's just not ready. Trey Sermon, I don't think he's bad, but they drafted a stud who just overtook him. And then Trey Lance is the weirdest one. But I still think the 49ers think Jimmy Garoppolo is better than we think Jimmy Garoppolo is, and are still thinking they can get a first for him or something, even though that's not going to happen. So, I mean, I think there's an explanation outside of that conspiracy for all 3 of those picks not playing. But it's interesting. Yeah, no, I am kind of with you.
I mean, personally, as much as I love Trey Lance, I love Deshaun Watson more, despite his off-the-field issues, because I know what he is.
Yeah.
And I think in a college
you'd have to do that. If it was those three players, you'd have to do that.
Yeah, I don't think Trey Sermon, I never thought he'd be anything special. And Aaron Banks, I watched him get mauled when they played Michigan. I watched it live in person. I never thought that guy was going to be anything here. I wanted to believe it, but, and as much as I love Trey Lance, Deshaun Watson in Kyle Shanahan's system was always what I wanted, even more so than Aaron Rodgers, given the fact that he's young. You know that. I wanted Deshaun bad. And if that's what you can get, then, good for you. However, I think if it was going to happen, I think the 49ers would have made him a Godfather offer this past offseason.
Yeah, probably so. Man.
But it would be interesting to see, man. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's true.
If Jimmy G goes down, if Compton goes down again, if the running back stable outside of Debo gets banged up again, does, Trey Sermon, Trey Lance, and Aaron Banks come in the game? Or do they turn to CJ Beathard and Debo Samuel and move Jalen Moore inside, or some walk-on scrub that they sign out of Nigeria or whatever, run the right yard duties? It'll be interesting, man.
Definitely so. Man, that is an interesting conspiracy.
But the one thing I'll say, though, I mean, if you're going to do that trade, you do it, because these guys don't owe you anything. How likely are they to keep their word and follow through with it? What if Miami came in late in the game and made a better offer, and then you're stuck with those three players that you didn't want?
Yeah, that'd be idiotic. No, I do believe, and maybe I'm too optimistic, but I do believe the offseason stories of Shanahan falling in love with Trey Lance. I actually do. So.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. I think they wanted to make an upgrade. I think they inquired about Deshaun Watson. I think they inquired about Matt Stafford. I think they inquired about Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
And when the Lions asked too much for Matt Stafford, which the Rams did give up too much for Matt Stafford, when the Texans wanted a Godfather offer, and then the investigation stuff came out, and then when Green Bay said thanks but no thanks, I think that was kind of like, okay, now we're trading up. I think they inquired for a veteran quarterback because Shanahan hates rookies. And they inquired about all the veteran quarterbacks when they got shot down. Then they moved on to, let's trade up and get our guy.
Yeah, definitely so. Well, that's interesting. We'll see. Maybe this offseason they surprise us. But
sure,
if that happens, we'll be here to cover it. But Josh, before we get out of here, man, will you provide us with your glorious fact of the week, as you always do?
We do. I have two for you this week. Fact number one, the 49ers will make the playoffs as the 6th seed. And then fact number two, the Puritans, you're familiar with the Puritans, the people who originated the holiday Thanksgiving. They didn't come to the New World, to the Americas, for religious freedom as initially thought. In fact, these Protestant separatists called the Puritans, they left the nation of Holland and Great Britain because of too much religious freedom. And this is because the country allowed the Jews and Catholics to invade their land. So instead of leaving for freedom, they left freedom behind and came for pure and utter anarchy. And because of this, the Puritans, as it says here on bestlifeonline.com, because of this, the Puritans, well, I'll just read you the whole thing. Fact number 39, the Puritans didn't come to the New World for religious freedom. The Protestant separatists left Holland and Great Britain because of too much religious freedom, since the country allowed Judaism and Catholicism and even atheism to thrive and flourish. Because of this, the Puritans dipped and went to the Mayflower, where they embarked across the pond for the New World. So it turns out, just like Urban Meyer to Jacksonville, not everything is how you dream it'll be. The way history is written isn't always right.
Wow. My favorite part of that is a historical fact having the word dipped in it.
I like that. I like that it had dipped in it. Maybe another historical fact in a couple months will be Urban Meyer fired from the Jacksonville Jaguars and Deshaun Watson in a red and gold 49er uniform.
I would come to love it, but I would have mixed feelings at first because I have already committed to the idea of Trey Lance. So it would take me some time, but logical man would enjoy it.
Do what you got to do. If that's how you feel, though, I'm going to dip for another podcast.
I don't blame you. Man. Well, all right, everybody. This has been the 49-Yard Dash podcast. We will continue covering everything 49ers, and we'll have our boy Luke on again next week since he'll be able to watch the Atlanta game. It's in our area. So we look forward to that, and hopefully we're talking about another victory. That is all. I'm Steven. That's Josh. Peace out, everybody.
Puritans forever.